All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So we just finished with perfect competition, and now we go to kind of the diametric opposite, the monopoly here. And so we're going to take a second and reflect back to our candy activity and our four groups here. But I want you to think about that monopoly group as you look at this cartoon here. So I ask you here at the bottom, it says, according to the cartoon, how do monopolies compare with perfectly competitive markets? Is this a fair depiction? I want you to think about it for a second. Pause the video here. I'm going to pause for a second myself. And just think, how does this compare with what happened in perfect competition? And if you think about the candy exercise, all the better. So if you notice, oh, there's my dryer. If you notice, the wood here, it's got Monopoly on it, so the flames are a product of the wood burning. And you notice the chain here, and chained to this wood, this Monopoly wood, is our consumer here. Now, if I were to imagine myself as a consumer here, I wouldn't imagine this as being pleasant. Having fire breathed on me by this Monopoly wood would seem incredibly uncomfortable. However, if you think about when Mr. Sutton was a consumer and he was buying peppermints in a perfectly competitive market in class, I was pretty happy. And in fact, I seemed like I was the happy one, and the firm seemed like they were really having a hard go of it because you guys were trying to drive the price up on me and couldn't do it. But here, it seems like perhaps the tide has been turned. And I want you to think about why that might be. Again, go back and think about Nick selling his Reese's Peanut Butter Cup to me and how that compared with some of the other groups. Hopefully we're remembering that Nick didn't face any competition. He was he was the only person that I could buy a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup from. And so what did that mean for his amount of control over the price? Well, he had almost exclusive control. Perhaps he had exclusive control. We're going to examine that in just a second. So it may be useful to kind of look back at your chart, but those are some of the big things to understand is that the monopoly is the sole producer, which means they're the only game in town. If I wanted a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, I had to go to Nick, and that meant that he had an incredible ability to control his price. I would also point out that he had he had a very exclusive product. He had no variety of product. There was no other place that I could go. Now, what we're going to do is I got a question for you here, because the second part is this a fair depiction, all right, that monopolies are just burning people up here. And this brings me to another question here. The question is, can monopolies charge whatever they would like? The instinct might be to say yes. Yes, Mr. Sutton, they absolutely can. Nick he charged whatever he wanted the other day in class, and you couldn't do anything to stop it. And I would tend to agree with that. However, my cat is doing crazy things right now. I apologize. So I would tend to agree with that, but for one little thing. Let's think of our example that we commonly come up with. Does anybody remember the example we had the other day in class of a monopoly? Well, I do. It's B, G, and E. Baltimore Gas and Electric Company. So let's use this. Let's say, instead of saying can monopolies, let's say can BG&E charge whatever they would like? Maybe, but actually not. And even if they weren't a regulated monopoly, which we'll talk about later, they still couldn't do it. And this is a key consideration. So yes, I know that we wrote complete control on our chart, but that's a little bit of a lie, because let's think of a very extreme example with BG&E. Now I know you probably don't pay the electric bill, but let's imagine you did for a second. Let's imagine the electric bill came in at so we were imagining a number for our electric bill. Let's imagine it was $10,000 for the month. Now, I don't know about you, but that is a boatload of cash right there. $120,000 for the year, which I can tell you right now is far bigger than my salary, and a lot of other people's salary too. Um, so what would happen if BG&E charged me $10,000 a month for my electric bill? What would I do? Well, it's wintertime and it's cold. So maybe for the first month I figure out a way to pay for it. But let me tell you, uh, what would you do if this was your utility bill? Well, I'd probably do something like build a fireplace in my house. I'd probably find a way to get some candles instead of turning on the lights. I get some old kerosene lamps or something. Uh, and the reason I'm doing this is because this idea of BG&E and their electric bill is absurd at $10,000 a month. So I'm looking for substitutes here. And these are, now I guarantee you, a fireplace or a kerosene lamp compared to my central heating and air and my electric lamps, they're not perfect substitutes, no question. But if BG&E expects me to buy a whole lot of electricity for them after a $10,000 bill, they got another thing coming. So they don't have the ability to charge whatever they like. Because I will find some other substitutes, imperfect as they may be. So there is some myth, this idea of perfect and like total control over the price. So this means that if the monopoly wants to sell more, what are they going to have to do? And the answer is not too tricky of one. What do you think? What are they going to do? So, if they want to sell more units of electricity, more output of electricity, they're going to have to lower their price, which you will notice is a substantial difference from what my perfectly competitive firms could do, right? They couldn't lower the price. That wasn't an option. Because those perfectly competitive firms in long-run equilibrium took a profit of zero. So lowering the price was not something that they were going to do. Consequently, they couldn't raise it either because they faced too much competition selling identical goods, blah, blah, blah. But the monopoly, if they want to sell more, they're going to have to lower the price. Which now brings me to our graph here. And this is going to bring us to the end of the first video here. What I want you to do, you have a chart like this. Now, I would like you to do this. You'll notice here, this is where's my pointer? Public water is used as a common example of a monopoly because where else do you get tap water from one location? Normally a public utility company run by your local or town or county government. So we use water here. But you notice the output's going up. But as I go up, if I want to sell more of this water, I have to decrease the price, just like we talked about. If the water company wants to charge me an exorbitant price, I'll find a different way to get my water. I'll walk down to the reservoir. It's only 3 miles away, and get my water and bring back the jugs. So if they want me to buy more water, they have to lower the price here. But with that being said, you should be able to figure out the total revenue. You have the total cost. I gave it to you. You don't have to calculate it. We've done that enough at this point, so I'm going to just give it to you here. You should be able to figure out the profit, the marginal revenue, the marginal cost, and the average total cost. The only one that might give you a little trouble is the average revenue, but I bet if I go like this, the average revenue equals, hold on a second, let me get it. Average revenue equals TR divided by quantity. I bet you can do that too. All right. So what I want you to do before we get to the next video, I would like you to fill in this chart. Okay. Go.